Bonsoir à tous. Cette fois, petit changement par rapport à d'habitude, nous n'allons pas faire de Titan Quest. J'ai envie de découvrir ce jeu dont on me parle depuis si longtemps, The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. Le jeu a l'air oufissime. Et j'espère qu'il l'est vraiment. Alors, on va changer 2-3 trucs. Tac. 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 Bien sûr, on change de jeu. Salut. J'ai absolument mais aucune idée de ce que vaut le jeu. Donc j'écris juste un truc sur Twitter et on est bon. Tac. J'aurais peut-être dû faire ça avant. Je suis un peu con. Putain. Voilà. Bon, comme j'ai dit, je connais rien du jeu. Découverte. Vais-je aimer, vais-je détester. J'ai lancé le jeu vite fait pour faire des tests. Que ce soit test son, paramètres et tout. Normalement ça devrait être bon, si jamais il faut changer quoi que ce soit. Si jamais le son de ma voix ou du jeu est trop fort. Faut le dire. Commencez. Allez le jeu. Soit exceptionnel.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor at his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Ouais, on serait
And
tous
then
heureux
one
si on
day,
faisait ça.
something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Et si je bouge pas de mon bureau? Est-ce que je peux faire quelque chose avec ce PC? Non. Le téléphone, non. Ça, non. J'ai aucune idée de quel est le but du jeu. J'ai aucune idée de qui je suis à part le fait que je travaille sur un ordi 24 heures sur 24, 7 jours sur 7, 365 jours par an. Les contrôles, donc si j'ai compris. Contrôle pour... ouais. Espace pour sauter, mais je peux pas sauter. Clic gauche pour interagir, mais... Un petit café? Pas de café. Très bien. Au revoir petit bureau que
All
j'aime
of his
pas.
co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Pas mal. Tu peux avoir des papiers partout. Ça manque quand même de papiers pour des gens qui bossent dans des bureaux. Ou alors, qu'est-ce que je dois faire? Où est-ce que je dois aller? Je suis pas allé plus loin que ça pour mon test. Est-ce qu'on voit un peu ce qui est écrit? J'arrive que à lire help. Bah, let's go. I hate Mondays. Comme tout le monde. Bon, par contre, tout est allumé. Putain, la facture d'électricité que ça doit faire.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Non, j'ai pas envie.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
C'est ce type de jeu, d'accord. Putain, qu'est-ce qu'il y en a des portes? 449. Quelle horreur. Ça, c'est la salle de pause.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
Cosy par ici.
Yes, really, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it.
C'est écrit quoi ici? Coffee nut. Ah, pas mal.
At this
Et là, c'est
point,
flou.
Stanley's obsession with this room bordered on creepy and
donc-
reflected poorly on his overall personality. It's possible that this is why everyone left.
Si je reste encore un peu, est-ce qu'il... Combien de temps ça peut durer, ça?
Stanley sat around waiting for more dialogue. But when a
Exactement.
long time had passed and there was no more, he decided that the game was trying to send him a message.
D'accord, Deadpool, on va attendre encore un peu. Je suis curieux. J'en profitais pour vérifier quelque chose. Tac. Hop. Ok, pour ça. Et ici. Je vérifie juste quelque chose très vite fait. Est-ce que je suis vraiment un énorme abruti? Ouais, c'est good. Ok. Bon, j'ai l'impression qu'il n'y a plus de dialogue, on se casse.
But at last, he'd had enough of the amazing
Ouais,
room
mais c'est bon.
and took the first open door on his left to get back to business.
C'est une salle de pause. Si tu passes plus de 45 secondes, ça va pas. Donc, gauche, hein. Ouais, ici, ça m'a l'air sympa.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
J'ai un très bon diplôme. C'est pour ça qu'on me garde. Ce stylo est extrêmement flou. Voyons voir. Not lie, if you are lying. No, stop. Pas mentir. Ah ouais. C'est pas bien de mentir. Ça s'ouvre des deux côtés. Ah, je veux la même chose chez moi. Number one et... Il y a sans doute quelque chose à côté. Mais je vois pas. Do not jump from the cargo like... Alors, mourir c'est pas cool. Penalty. 1000 $. Et pénalité. Sauter de là, 5000.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm
Là,
not your
si je
enemy,
tombe, je dois
really,
payer.
I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. please.
Est-ce que
Stop
je me...
trying. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you?
Possible.
Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance.
Bah, c'est déjà magnifique à quel point il est... Il a un seum intersidéral de ne pas se faire écouter. Ta gueule, le jeu. Danger, danger everywhere. Danger de partout. Peut-être que ce truc va me sauter dessus. Peut-être que ça va me tomber dessus. Peut-être que les cartons vont tous me tomber dessus. Fais gaffe, toi. Je peux ouvrir ça? Je peux pas ouvrir. Une chaise de bureau? Toi de carton? Chelou. Cargo. Opérateur manuel. Ah oui, d'accord. Le manuel d'explication pour le cargo. La notice. Et qu'est-ce qui va m'arriver si je stand sur le side de ce fence? Absolument rien. No bucket, no bucket. Donc là, les sauts sont interdits. Si on a des sauts, attention.
Now listen carefully, this is important.
C'est important.
Stanley walked through the red door.
Si on est daltonien, ça peut passer.
Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door. I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door. All right, fine, go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you.
Mais ce couloir était si palpitant, je devais le traverser.
You see?
Whoa.
There's nothing here. I haven't even finished building this section of the map because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what you had wanted? Was it worth ruining the entire story I had written out specifically for you? Do you not think I put a lot of time into that? Because I did. And in the end, it was all for nothing. Because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley. Help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of yours. What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles? Skill trees? Work with me. You've given me absolutely nothing so far. Tell you what. Let me take a stab in the dark at a new design and you can give me some feedback. There we go. A third option. This already feels leaps ahead of where we were before. Go ahead, Stanley. Take it for a spin.
Allez, je suis curieux.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking for some real critical feedback here.
Franchement...
A 1? I mean, I can understand if you had reservations, you saw ways the game could be improved to more fully express itself mechanically and artistically,
Y a pas
but
de
a
H.
1? That's not even helpful. What am I supposed to do with that? But I guess it isn't my place to judge. Here, based on the data from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new version. And to be perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park with this one. Let's take a look.
Waouh! Incroyable! Incroyable! Yeah! Objectivement. Allons ici.
Now, would you say that competitive leaderboard helped you feel motivated to keep walking through doors?
Franchement, de voir que je suis dernier...
Honest answers, please.
Ouais.
Hey, I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been working on, and now would be a lovely opportunity to give it some playtesting. You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you? Perfect. Let me boot it up.
Ok.
In this game, the baby crawls left towards danger. You click the button to move him back to the right, and if he reaches the fire, you fail. It's a very meaningful game, all about the desperation and tedium of endlessly confronting the demands of family life. I think the art world will really take notice. But of course, the message of the game only becomes clear once you've been playing it for about 4 hours. So why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's effective? Be sure to keep notes on your experience.
Et si je laisse y aller, est-ce qu'il se passe quoi que ce soit?
You heartless bastard. Did you do it because you hate babies or purely to spite me? Because if it's the latter, well, I don't know what to do. I'm completely out of ideas. I can't think of a single thing that might improve the experience for me. I'm not even going to try. I'm out, I'm done. It's over. Thank you for playing. Your input was extremely valuable. Oh, hey, since my game was so awful, why don't we play someone else's game, just to ease the pain? Let's see. What do we have here? Yes, this seems like it'll work. Let's give it a shot.
Oui, bon bah, qu'est-ce qu'il va me proposer maintenant?
Aha! Fascinating. What do you think this game is about, Stanley? What's our backstory? What is our motivation? Well, it seems obvious to me that you are meant to play as a creepy man spying on innocent civilians below you from up high in your creep tower, perhaps for some sort of twisted erotic purpose.
Ah, c'est une carabine.
Yes, that must be it. What a fascinating venture into the experience of total mental depravity. So far, I love everything about this game, Stanley. And it seems there's even more. Come, let's venture outward and see what else is out there.
C'était le bruit d'une porte dans Minecraft, ça. Les jeunes amis. D'accord, donc c'est un collégien. Un collégien pas très doué. Je sais pas si ça vient d'un mode jeu ou pas. Ouais. Il se passe rien. Les arbres sont plus beaux que dans les gens d'Arceus, c'est déjà ça. Ah, évidemment. Évidemment. Par contre, mon personnage, il traîne du cul. C'est une catastrophe. Les montagnes, au moins, elles sont trop jolies comme ça. J'aime trop.
No, it can't be.
Quoi, non. Y'a quoi ici?
It is. It's an open world game. Good God, quickly block it off. Oh, thank goodness, Stanley. What a close call. You nearly wandered off into that thing. That big, open, just wandering around. No right or wrong directions. No path to follow. You can just go in any...
Ça fait froid dans le dos.
Oh, thank heavens we avoided it. We're out of the woods now, Stanley. Okay, I'm going to get us out of here. Let's find another game. Preferably something with walls. Something with nice, big, insurmountable walls. Okay, I think this will be just the thing.
J'espère. What the...
Wonderful. See, this is exactly what I had in mind.
Là, par contre, je
Just a
faut pas
nice
déconner.
big box for you to run around in. There isn't any possibility that you could get lost here. Now this is game design. Stanley, if you manage to get lost in this game, I will be phenomenally impressed.
Et est-ce qu'il y a un endroit où je peux me perdre?
Okay, so what exactly do we do here? Let's see. There are lots of cars here in the back, but obviously there's no racetrack. Okay, I'm seeing that there's a ball of some kind back here. Is this game sports ball? Stanley, I think it's sports ball. Oh, what fun. We shall run the bases and do a touchdown together. Yes, I think surely we must.
Je pense aussi,
okay, Stanley, here's the ball. Have fun.
Oh, la taille de cette balle. Ouais, tranquille. Si seulement je pouvais courir, sauter ou quelque chose comme ça. J'ai
Are
jamais
you
joué à
doing
Rocket
it?
League de ma
Are you
vie.
winning? Is this fun? Is it better than my miserable little story that I worked so hard on? Stanley, I have a thought. And I realize I'm not a sportsologist, but if one ball generates a certain amount of raw adrenal pleasure, then surely multiple... Hold on. What are you doing?
Qu'est-ce que...
Stanley, don't do that. I can't follow you there. I can't help you. How will you write a story without me? You can't do it. You know that. Stanley, come back.
Où est-ce qu'on est, bêta? Ah, on est vraiment sur... la création. Il n'y a plus de lumière, tout est délabré, ça y est, c'est un jeu d'horreur. C'est trop calme. J'aime pas trop beaucoup ça. Oh, je peux ouvrir? Je peux pas ouvrir. Au moins là, il y a de la lumière en face. What? Et c'est des caméras? Ok, donc là je suis paumé.
I wonder what he found. If what he wanted was to be the leading man in his own story, well, perhaps he's gotten it. Down in wherever he is right now. I wonder if he's happy with his choice, and if he's learned the heavy cost that comes with it. He'll understand soon what I was trying to tell him. He needs me. Someone who will wrap everything up at the end, to make sense out of the chaos and the fear and the confusion. That's who I am. That is what I mean to this world. Oh, yes. Yes, I'll be back. There's no other way. Once this ends, after it all comes to a close, then I'll be back. The end will be here soon. Very soon. I can wait.
Ils vont tous mourir. Et donc... J'ai fait une fin de jeu? Ah ouais, c'est la fin KO, la fin dans le noir, la fin frérot, fais gaffe, il y a peut-être des screamers au coin des portes. Waouh! Stylé. Et maintenant, on va essayer de suivre un peu plus ce qu'il dit quand même. Le pauvre.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Il y a combien de fins de jeu? Je crois qu'il y en a beaucoup.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ok.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
J'espère que vous savez lire l'anglais parce que je vais pas tout traduire. Parce que je suis très... Même si je comprends tout, à peu près tout ce qui est écrit ici, traduire en live, c'est pas mon truc. Machine à café, important. Papier, papier. Get today, finish item. Le futur était hier. Demain c'est aujourd'hui. Qu'est-ce que ça raconte? RS 02 01. Je pense que ça veut. Ah non. Ouais. Je sais pas s'il y a Une signification particulière à tout ça. Ici, on a quoi? Post-review, review. Une review d'une review. Besoin moins de review. The Despo. Options, reviews. Schedule. That's a stupid idea. Watercooler. Plus de watercooler. Beaucoup. Teenagers, c'est adolescent. C'est beaucoup d'adolescents. Space between the teenagers. Mais c'est une corbeille Windows, ça, monsieur. C'est une corbeille Windows. Ah, pas la tête. Plus de canettes vides. Ah ouais, ça c'est le truc des idées. Ouais, bah. Il y a l'air d'avoir pas mal de choses dessus. Alors ici. Qu'est-ce que les gens veulent? Des choses. Happy feeling, sentir bien. Sentir bien, vous êtes viré. Putain, j'ai l'impression d'entendre J. Jonah Jameson. L'argent, plus d'argent, des trucs, mais avec de l'argent pour acheter plus de trucs, des graphes. Des graphes à propos de trucs, plus de monnaie. Et là, on a notre nouveau produit. The stock market. Ouais, à peu près par là. Segment. Notice hot. Target démographique teenager. Profit. Ok. Ah oui, d'accord. Caroline va incentive. J'ai pas le temps de tout lire. You masterful. Ouais, enfin, ils sont très ressemblants pour des gens très uniques. Mais ok. Nombre de slides de ce slide. Chart and slide. Slide. Pas mal. Est-ce qu'il y en a d'autres? A chart on the same slide depicts the same information. Wow. Ah, vite. Beaucoup de graphes. Stop. You love must Évidemment, faux Pépon le boss. Ah, des conflits interpersonnels. Ouais, si tu trouves toi-même dans un conflit avec un autre employé, comme toi-même. Non mais oh! Allez, c'est bon. Fais ça, puis on sort. Énergie, camarade, free to play, avec des photos. Au revoir, petite salle avec beaucoup d'anglais que je n'ai pas traduit. Au revoir. Par là. Je peux ouvrir ça? Ça veut dire quoi, mon closet?
Stanley stepped into the broom closet,
Voilà, merci.
but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Très intéressant, les balais, c'est très intéressant.
There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow. Just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be
Aucune raison de
here.
rester là. Si. Te casser les couilles. Par contre, la différence de
It
texture,
was
ça rappelle certains
baffling that
trucs.
Stanley was still just sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything. At least if there was something to interact with, he'd be justified in some way. As it is, he's literally just standing there doing sweet FA.
Je fais pas que dalle, j'observe les magnifiques textures de ce balai, de ses poils.
Are you really still in the broom closet? Standing around doing nothing? Why? Please offer me some explanation here. I'm genuinely confused.
Parce que ce balai est magnifique, fous-moi la paix. Allez, on se casse.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
En haut ou en bas? En bas. C'est très rouge. Ouais.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment and my wife and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay. Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Le narrateur, il est trop fort.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work.
What?
But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Ah ouais. Ah ouais.
All of his co-workers were gone. What
Oui,
could it
je
mean?
sais, je sais.
Stanley
Cette fois,
decided to go to the meeting room.
on refait la
Perhaps he had
même,
simply
mais on
missed a
grimpe.
memo.
Putain, le jeu il est frais.
When Stanley came to a set of
Combien
two open
de
doors,
fins,
he
il y a
entered the door
combien
on his left.
d'embranchements. C'est fou. Et surtout, qu'est-ce qui a été rajouté
Yet
par
there was
rapport à
not
la
a
version
single
2013?
person here either.
Parce que le jeu est sorti en 2013, il
Feeling
me
a
semble.
wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office.
Voilà.
Hoping, coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
What the... Putain, je me sens comme dans Amnesia. J'ai de la peine pour ce pauvre panda. Business stratégie. Oh ouais, le mec il se prend pas pour de la merde.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life.
Réel.
Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code
Évidemment.
by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Ok. Ok. Bah, t'imagines à côté de ton bureau, t'as ça. Caché dans un mur. On va descendre.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar.
Ouais.
It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Eh ben... Réellement, le pauvre Stanley là, il...
Stanley walked straight ahead
Flippe un
through the
peu,
large
exactement.
door that read Mind Control Facility.
Non, il faut suivre, il faut suivre. Qu'est-ce que... Bon, très bien, on appuie sur le bouton.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens.
Putain, le prix de ça
What
doit coûter.
horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find
Pas
out?
vraiment des écrans plats par contre. Hein. Par contre, sans pied, je fais des bruits de pas terribles.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Particulier.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it.
But it
His
refused.
own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
On voit que dalle,
But
c'est
here was the
parfait.
proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Donc il faut destroyer les contrôles de tout ça. Et si j'ai envie de rester sous contrôle mental, genre c'est rigolo quand même. C'est les types power. Un autre bouton par là. Voyons voir. Voyons un petit peu, peut-être qu'il y a des trucs intéressants. 3, donc ici un 3. Ok. J'imagine il y a un 4, un 2 et un 1. Voilà. 1. 2. Donc le 3 par là, mais d'abord je vais tous les trouver. Non, on va tout de suite faire le 3. 1, 2. Parce que j'imagine qu'il faut les faire dans l'ordre parce que sinon c'est pas drôle. À quoi ça sert? J'en sais foutrement rien. Ces couleurs si jolies quand même. Bah alors 3. Je suis aveugle? C'est possible. Je suis peut-être complètement con. 5. Y a pas un 4 quelque part? Oh! Allez, bâtard! Ok. À voir si ça va faire quoi que ce soit ou si vraiment... Je peux pas y aller? Sans déconner? Oh, t'es sérieux le jeu? Oh, t'es sérieux? Bon, j'imagine il doit y avoir un moyen d'entrer là-dedans, d'ouvrir la porte ou autre, mais... On va continuer. Waiting input. En fait, nous sommes dans un Windows. Nous ne sommes qu'une intelligence
And when at
artificielle.
last he found the source of the room's power,
Oh.
he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
N'empêche, ça c'est de l'écran. Ça c'est de l'écran. Genre tu joues à LOL dessus, c'est parfait. Et tout s'éteigna. S'éteignit. C'est... Tout s'est éteint.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over?
J'entends mon personnage, donc c'est pas fini.
Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine. Unshackled
Let's
himself
go.
from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
Par contre,
Stanley felt the cool
comment ça il
breeze
fait aussi
upon his
noir
skin,
à l'intérieur avec un
feeling
soleil
of
pareil? C'est
liberation,
possible.
the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Sans déconner, terminer le jeu. Sans déconner. Les fins sont si rapides à obtenir. Ok. Tant qu'on est dans cette fin où on écoute un peu le titre, on va retourner au même endroit.
Stanley
En bourrant un
decided
peu
to go
plus.
to the meeting room.
Et cette fois, on va
Perhaps he
appuyer
had
sur le
simply
bouton
missed a memo.
On. Et on va voir un petit peu ce que ça peut donner.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his
Et
left.
déjà, on va voir tout ce qu'on a potentiellement à faire là-dedans.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase,
ascenseur, est-ce que
Stanley
je peux pas
walked
le prendre
upstairs to his boss's office.
Ici, déjà. Est-ce un crime? Que va être un crime? N'est-ce pas riche? Si tu piques, si t'en prends juste un, ce serait une vie. Oh, ce serait chiant. De bons crimes là. Une bonne destruction psychologique. Extrême bathroom. Imagine, t'as ça quoi dans ta. Bah déjà, qui a des toilettes aussi immenses et surtout à côté d'une fenêtre? Qui? Alors peut-être qu'on est à 75 étages, j'en sais rien, mais. Qui? En tout cas, putain qu'il fait beau dehors. Hein. Wow. Si on monte, qu'est-ce qui se passe? On va jouer un peu avec cet ascenseur. C'est fort de faire ça sans enceinte par contre. Je suis impressionné. Mais profitons un peu de cette musique d'ascenseur exceptionnelle. Ah, on n'a pas bougé du tout. Ok, si on va en bas par contre. On ne bouge pas non plus. Il y a sans doute quelque chose à faire avec cet ascenseur, mais... on verra ça.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to
Stylé.
discover not an indication of any human life.
En vrai de
What
vrai,
could it
stylé.
mean? Stanley wondered aloud to
Je me souviens
nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk.
Je me souviens plus.
What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret pin number, 2845. But of course,
Attends, on va
Stanley couldn't
laisser parler
possibly
jusqu'au
have
bout.
known this.
Ah, il marquait vraiment pas grand chose. Attends, je suis sûr qu'il va me le redire.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
Qu'est-ce que tu peux me dire de plus, frérot?
2845.
Je te laisse une dernière chance. Insulte-moi de tous les noms, je t'en supplie, monsieur. Bon.
Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself, and Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
Je pensais qu'il allait faire une remarque à ce niveau-là, mais... dommage. Donc... allons par là. Si j'essaye d'aller en haut. Il va en bas automatiquement, très bien. Combien d'étages on descend pour que ça nécessite un temps de chargement, là? Si je remonte, est-ce qu'il y a quoi que ce soit qui se passe? Ou est-ce que je vais juste...
Nope. Never mind. Stanley actually got back into the elevator and went back up. Silly me. Why did Stanley do that when he knew that it would just lead back to his boss's office? Well, that's a great question. I just can't wait to find out.
Est-ce qu'ici... est-ce que je me retrouve vraiment dans le bureau du chef? Est-ce que j'ai un endroit au pif? Non, je reviens ici... un de plus, hein. Ok. Ah. Ok, ok. Non mais d'accord, très bien.
Here we are, Stanley. It's your boss's office. Exactly the way it was before you got onto the elevator. It's still just exactly what it is. What a decision you've made to come up here and look at the office again. This has fleshed out the plot of the story in new and fascinating ways I could have never anticipated. It's that keen eye for storytelling that you have, an incisive rapid fire of critical plot points, one after the other, weaving a rich tapestry of uncompromising narrative. Wow! I'm bolted to the edge of my seat.
Non mais c'est exceptionnel tout ce qui s'offre à nous, genre on peut ne pas ouvrir cette porte, ne pas jouer de ce piano. Ok, on peut reprendre l'ascenseur. Tout va bien.
Incredible. Now he's getting back into the elevator and going down again. Ladies and gentlemen, how does he keep coming up with all of this?
Gros moment relou, mais... est-ce qu'on peut remonter? Est-ce qu'il y a un nouveau dialogue?
Did you think we were going to go forward down the spooky corridor? No. It's time once again to go back up in the elevator. I can't even begin to grapple with what might be up there. Is it the boss's office again? Or what if it's the boss's office this time? The suspense is killing me.
Je tremble d'impatience. Allez, montre-moi la vérité. Waouh. Et alors, mais serait-ce... putain, c'est le bureau du chef. Oh.
Oh my God. It's the boss's office.
Waouh. Jésus.
This absolutely changes everything for me. Give me a time out here for a minute while I process this. Okay, I'm ready. I'm prepared to embrace this stunning revelation and to move forward with... No, wait. No, I need more time to process.
Le salaud. Je hold.
All right. I have fully
Sûr, t'as
come to
pas besoin
terms
d'une
with it.
petite pause
I
supplémentaire.
have made space in my worldview for this astonishing new reality.
Je sais que
As
c'est pas facile,
before,
mais...
I turn to your expert eye for gripping narrative, Master Stanley.
Ok. Prenons l'ascenseur.
Of course. Going back down in the elevator. How did I not anticipate it? I mean, sure, now it's obvious, but you have to understand that 30 seconds ago, this kind of thing had never been attempted before. I had no frame of reference to even anticipate it. That's just how revelatory Stanley's decision-making is. A breath of fresh air in a landscape of storytelling that has grown stale and repetitive.
Non mais là j'avoue je suis tout bouleversé. Ah. Oh merde, j'ai réappuyé sur le bouton, mince. Oh, fais chier. Est-ce qu'il y a encore quelque chose? Non, c'était fini.
You know what? I've just thought of something. Hold on, let's stop for a moment.
Ok.
Don't you realize? It's the anticipation, Stanley. You and I, we have no way of knowing what will be at the top of this elevator. But the suspense, the agony of waiting and anticipating and having to guess, that's the real thrill.
Mon cœur il bat au moins à
I simply
170.
don't want to let that feeling go. It's so precious, so fleeting. Why don't we take this elevator ride nice?
C'est vrai, c'est vrai.
and
Posons-nous un petit peu, prenez un café, du
There we
coca,
go.
un
Isn't
sandwich,
this so
qu'importe.
much more exciting? You know, Stanley, it
C'était bien.
seems like nowadays the only thing that audiences want is
Préparez-vous.
to be shocked as loudly and frequently as possible. They want big, explosive moments flung right in their faces
Il faut se
from the very
préparer.
moment that things get started.
On est sur un gros morceau
Where's the
d'histoire.
tension? Where's the trust in the audience to build a slow and nuanced appreciation for the story, the characters? Why aren't we given time to imagine the surprises, to have to think and to anticipate, and then to marvel at the eventual reveal? This is storytelling, Stanley.
Je sais pas
What
qu'est-ce
you
qui
and
nous
I
attend.
are doing right now. This is the most exciting narrative to be developed in years, and it's really all because of you. You're the one who took this bold step of revisiting the exact same locations over and over. Truly, I mean it. This is unique and different. It's not like anything else out there. You see, I want stories that surprise me, Stanley. I want to have to
Vraiment
think.
être autiste
I
pour
want to
prendre
be
un ascenseur
engaged
encore et
and not
encore,
pandered
ça
to.
change.
We're being fed such unimaginative drivel all the time, and we all know it, which is why we're so starved for content that makes us feel sharp and vital and alive. That's why people like you so much, Stanley, because you're not afraid to spit in the face of tradition. You're a role model, you know? People look up to you. Which is why, oh, I didn't know when to spring this on you, but, well, I've gathered a little press conference for you, so that you can talk about your work and your storytelling and your life. Yes, I know you're not much for the public eye, but I thought it would especially mean a lot to the people who have been following you from the beginning. They really look up to you, Stanley. I don't know if you realize the impact you have on them. This is the kind of gesture that might leave a tremendous impact on them for the better. Oh good, we're here.
J'ai la... Pourquoi j'ai la souris qui s'est activée? Ok, c'est bon. Par contre, ça a vraiment changé, j'en reviens pas. Waouh.
Okay, the room where we're holding the press conference should be just around the corner here somewhere.
Ok, c'est bon moment. Je peux pas le louper. Stanley. Oh. Petite salade. petite pyramide. Et bien sûr, ils étaient tous habillés comme ça pour fabriquer les pyramides. Hein. Et... Ouais, bah, moi aussi, je suis allé sur Mars. Enfin, je vois rien d'exceptionnel. Hein. Par contre, c'est quoi ce César Palace? On m'explique? Stanley Suprématie. Je m'agenouille devant moi-même. Non, le bébé, c'est relou.
Ah, yes, here it is.
La
Just
porte
through this
Minecraft,
door.
là-bas. World Sentient Machine. Ouais, enfin, c'est un bras mécanique, on se calme. Il me fait pitié. Qu'est-ce que c'est ça? Ah oui, bah... Alexandre le Grand, c'est mon cousin.
All right, are you ready? I've told them you're going to speak a little bit about the nature of surprise in storytelling and what it means to craft a truly unpredictable narrative. Oh, don't worry, you'll do great. Just be yourself and speak from the heart. I'm really proud of you, Stanley.
Ça va pas être facile.
Okay, it looks like they're ready for you. Go get them.
Ok, on y va. Parler de notre capacité à prendre des ascenseurs encore et encore pour changer l'histoire. Oh, c'est moi. Je suis trop beau. Vous êtes tous moi. Ah, la pression, c'est pas facile à supporter. Quoi, sans déconner? Genre, cette fin-là se finit comme ça. Ok.
How wonderful. Stanley was alone. Finally. This is great, he thought to himself. This is what I've wanted all along. I got what I wanted.
Ok. Si les dialogues changent au fur et à mesure des fins, ça va être merveilleux. Maintenant, on va retourner à la toute fin, après le bureau du chef. Cette fois, on va changer de bouton.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door
Le choix
on
était
his
difficile.
left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief,
Ouais, c'est vrai que ce
Stanley
conseil, comme il
decided
est
to go
vachement
up to
utile.
his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Les gens, si vous voulez pas vous faire virer, bah ne vous faites pas virer.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley
Bonne
walked
chance.
upstairs to his boss's office.
Ok, le manoir Amnésia, très bien. Donc là-bas, c'est l'ascenseur, j'en veux pas pour l'instant.
The moment he entered his manager's office, Stanley froze in his tracks.
2, 8,
Not
4...
a living soul anywhere. Could he really be
Essaye.
all alone? This was too much for Stanley to
5.
take.
Merci.
Too much. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he
pas
didn't
le
even
temps.
have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy. So he relaxed
je vais
for a
jusqu'à
few
25 mois,
moments
puis c'est fini.
with some calming new age music.
Profitez de cette musique. Enfin, tu te mastes.
Feeling
Attends, mais attends, j'ai pas
soothed
reçu le
and
message sur...
rejuvenated,
Ah si, c'est bon.
Stanley calmly
Mais
walked
ouais,
in
attends, Stanley Parable,
into the
exceptionnel.
open passageway.
Exceptionnel. Pour l'instant, j'ai dû faire 4 ou 5 fins. Mais le narrateur, il me met trop bien. Mais comme j'ai jamais fait la version 2013, je suis directement passé à la version Deluxe.
Stanley walked straight
sais pas
ahead
du
through
tout
the
ce qui a
large
changé.
door that read Mind Control Facility.
Ok, le mind control, tout ça.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens.
Avec des écrans plats
What
de
horrible
50
secret
cm
did this
d'épaisseur.
place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Oh, j'en sais rien.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Wow. Et là,
This mind control facility,
C'est
it was too
l'explosion mentale.
horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
J'aimerais bien avoir un bureau comme ça, là, avec des fauteuils pareils. Pourquoi moi j'ai un vieux fauteuil en coin
He
moche.
refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Bon, les dialogues pour l'instant ne changent pas tant que ça, mais... En même temps, c'est que la deuxième fois que je viens ici. Comment est-ce que je peux monter là-haut? Pas un easter egg quelque part. Je sais pas. Déjà, on va aller là-bas, on va voir ce que ça fait d'appuyer sur le bouton. Oh. Peut-être que je vais pouvoir me contrôler moi-même mentalement.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power... Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control?
C'est bien ça. Ouais.
Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are said to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers
Oh, ça on s'en fout, t'appelles comment?
A moment of solace before you're obliterated.
Pas un kebab?
All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better.
Je crois que je
My
commence à
goodness,
comprendre.
only 34 seconds
ça,
left.
c'est à
But
la
I'm
fin, quand
enjoying
j'aurai
this so
fini.
much.
Si
You
j'ai
know
reçu
what?
5
To hell with
vous
it.
allez voir tout ça.
I'm going
Ça
to
se passe
put
quelque
some
chose.
extra time on the clock, why not?
Oh,
These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge, it's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing.
a big boom.
No ending here, just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count.
Eh ben,
Or
j'imagine...
it's all the same.
J'imagine que je vais
All
mourir.
part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say,
Ouais,
"Happy
là.
arrival."
Ouais, il restait 40... Il restait la moitié d'une seconde et il me tue. Mais il est honteux. Et on revient là. Dans notre cher bureau 427 incrusté. Ok.
All of his co-workers
Bon,
were
je me
gone.
tenterai ça
What could
plus
it
tard.
mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
Parce que j'ai
Perhaps he
aucune
had
idée de ce qu'il
simply
faut
missed
faire.
a
Je vais
memo.
juste mourir à nouveau. Oh.
Oh,
Nouveau
new
contenu.
content? What does that mean? New content.
C'est dire new content. Et ouais, frérot.
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Ok,
As
là,
you
on
may
est
know,
dans
the
le contenu.
Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers.
Deluxe.
The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over.
Je peux me faire piquer aussi.
Step inside
J'ai
and
besoin d'une
see what
troisième dose.
thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Ultra
Oh, well,
Deluxe.
this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content.
Je peux pas aller là. Bon bah allons là. Eh bah allons découvrir cette...
Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure.
Je suis sûr qu'on va vivre une aventure exceptionnelle, toi et moi.
Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving
C'est ça,
somewhere
l'aventure
or-
palpitante.
Oh, here we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it.
Ce mur s'arrête un jour, n'est-ce pas?
I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable
Exceptionnel.
Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's
Moi
as
je
if
suis
the-
subjugué, c'est trop bien.
Okay, let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley.
Moi aussi je veux du content.
All right,
Ok,
all right, let's see it. The
ok.
jump circle.
C'est une salle de sport. Je comprends, je comprends. Un peu de cardio. Allez. Une, deux, Nita. C'est pour m'apprendre que Space, c'est pour sauter. Attends, j'ai besoin d'encore quelques fois, là. C'est Space, c'est ça? Ok. Non, je me suis trompé, c'était pas ça. Chier. Je peux plus sauter. Je peux plus sauter. J'avais l'espoir.
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to
Non,
be
je pense qu'on a
something
fini.
else,
Je pense que
right?
ça méritait une nouvelle édition. Putain, ça me fait penser à Portal avec...
Another
That
elevator.
pareil.
Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is
faire
this
du
what
saut.
started for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could counter 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And if... Oh, wait. There's more. Very good.
Ok.
Yes.
Est-ce que je peux
I
ressauter?
knew there had to
Est-ce
be
qu'il y aura un
something
autre
else.
cercle de saut?
Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
Ce n'est pas un cercle de saut. Des cartons et un fauteuil. Et une plante. Flashback des Déluxe. J'ai peur des plantes.
That's it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley?
Bah, c'est parce qu'il
This
fallait
is
compter
what
jusqu'à 30
happens
milliards.
when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fanbase rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable.
Oh, ça c'est dangereux
It's my
d'exprimer
fault,
sa
Stanley.
pensée sur Twitter.
I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm
Je peux passer.
afraid. It could never have lived up to such
Hey.
expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always.
Franchement,
What do you say, friend?
toi et moi dans cette salle fermée avec une chaise, c'était le meilleur truc que j'aurais pu avoir. Oh.
Psst. Stanley, come over here. In the vent. I want to show you something. Oh, you don't want to see the cool surprise I made for you? Well, fine. You're a dork anyway, so who cares? Oh, never mind. You're not a dork.
Et si je retourne là? Bon, ok. Ça va, j'ai compris. On va prendre le conduit. On va suivre le conduit. Ok. J'ai plus de genoux. Mais c'est pas grave.
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be?
Vraiment
But it
pas.
got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it.
Un temple.
Just our little secret. Take a look.
Juste un temple. Encore une fois. Ça vient d'Amnésia, c'est obligé. Oh, de l'air pur, de
I
l'air frais.
call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want.
C'est pratique.
Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC.
Moi aussi, je lance le jeu en boucle juste pour me sentir bien. The Memory Zone. Attends, elle est si grande que ça, cette maison? Exceptionnel.
You see,
Ah,
Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley
des
Parable
souvenirs.
was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release?
que des souvenirs après avoir joué 1h20 au jeu.
2013, when the game originally launched.
Non, je m'en souviens
Back
pas, non.
then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
Je suis sûr qu'il y a un nombre de jeux de merde en 2013 qui est effroyable, mais... Nick. Oh, mais il y a même les télés et tout. Est-ce qu'il jusqu'à l'ascenseur. Je suis déçu. Et ici, qu'est-ce que c'est? Ah ouais. Ah ouais. Ah ok. On est vraiment sur la mémoire du... Regarde, c'est incroyable. Mais attends, du coup... Steam, ça ressemblait à ça avant? Wesh. Je suis trop jeune. C'est beau. De l'argent! Pardon. Ce tapis est dégueulasse. Ouais. Ouais. C'est beau. Que de souvenirs. Ma mort. Une minute de silence pour ce pauvre petit Stanley. C'est trop, c'est trop. Adieu, madame. J'espère que tu veilles sur moi depuis le ciel.
Rencontrer mon amour, mais ici,
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable.
Oh non, la
Like this
musique!
stunning triumph of games journalism. 10 out of
Elle était
10
française.
from
C'est en français, la
Destructoid.com.
musique.
James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original
Je
Stanley
ressens la patte
Parable
du
was.
démineur.
It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A
C'est juste une
lifeless
mojo.
husk with an hour of new elevator content.
Mais c'est Portal! C'est pas... Non, c'est pas fait par les mêmes. Wait. 2 minutes, les gens. Ok. Tac, tac. C'est très chiant que je ne reçoive pas les messages tout de suite. Je suis obligé de quitter et de reprendre. Oh là! Je sais pas ça fait combien de temps que t'as envoyé le message. Je sais pas si t'es encore là. Mais salut. Va falloir que je règle ce souci de chat qui s'active pas bien. Ok. Je reprends un deuxième écran. Très pratique. Parce que le téléphone, bon, ça a pas l'air de faire des miracles d'ailleurs. Je vais tenter de le redémarrer. Twitch. Tac. Gestion de stream. Allez. Et cette fois, frérot, marche, s'il te plaît. Vérifier. Ok. La mémoire. Putain, mais c'est le feu cette caisse, la veut. C'était l'édition collector, ça? Putain, c'est trop cool.
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games, and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone, to spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories.
Après, des murs, c'est sympa comme nouveau contenu. Moi, j'aime bien. C'était quoi ça? Ah bon. Ah, sympa. Je peux aller là ou pas du tout? Je peux pas sauter? Non. Je peux ouvrir? Non. Et là, c'est de là où je viens. Faut que j'aille où? Faut que je revienne là? Ouais. Ok.
These were simpler times, Stanley.
J'avoue.
But I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here?
Oula, c'est très rouge. On va s'attarder là. Je peux me prendre un... Non, je peux pas prendre de coca. Pas de...
Oh no. Oh God, no. Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't
J'imagine
they?
que... Ce sont que des reviews exceptionnelles.
Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
Je suis d'accord. Il est absolument pas drôle, il est détestable. Oh, un autre.
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness.
Si.
This is actually quite shocking for me.
J'ai pu être choqué parce que
I
tu m'as
always-
dit
well,
fils
to
de
be honest,
pute.
I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did, but maybe it wasn't.
Mais ces commentaires existent réellement?
What an awful memory to have to
Incroyable.
hold on to.
Ils ont
These
totalement
black
compris
marks on
l'essence
my
du jeu.
otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered. What's
10
this
heures
one
de
got to
jeu.
say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button.
Putain, si on avait un bouton passé, mais
skip
le jeu serait tellement chiant.
Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's
Whoa.
my motto
Whoa.
today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have.
Je peux sauter du coup? Non.
And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll pop you forward in time so that the second my incessant droning starts to bore you with just the...
Okay.
Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few
voulais
minutes,
juste
but
tester.
it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe it was perhaps one of my more profound such ruminations.
Je pense que j'ai loupé
Not
quelque
that,
chose
of course, you
d'exceptionnel.
need a description of it, but if I had to describe it, I'd say it was perhaps less of a rumination and more of a treatise. Or maybe a manifesto. Look,
Ça y est, il
I'll
se met à la
outline it
philosophie.
for
Il
you
en peut
very
plus.
briefly, and you can tell me what you think. Okay, so my theory is that any choice you've ever made is simply a series of choices made by the person who you are, or were, or will be at the time of having made said choice. That is to say, if by articulating a choice you've already made, you bring that choice into being, then by making no choice and saying nothing, are you not simply erecting in the sanctuary of time a monument to every person you've ever been, making every choice to which you've ever given your great gift of mortal and yet timeless thought? Or rather, do all of the choices you've ever made in fact make you more not this kind of person, and in fact do the very opposite? You see, it could in fact be both of these things at once. That you are both making choices and not making choices, and that they are both affecting you and not affecting you at the same time by virtue of the fact that you both are and are not making them. Okay, at first, I was leaning towards manifesto, but now I'm going to circle around and slap the treatise label on this one. I think it has much more of a treatise vibe to it. But wouldn't you say that manifesto just has a much grander sort of tone? It has a mouthfeel that is rich with ambition and history. Ambitious history, if you will. Ah. See, now you've gotten me going back to manifesto. Heavens, at this rate, we're going to be here all day. Okay, look. I have a method for exactly this sort of situation, and I do find myself in this situation frequently. I'm going to say each word back and forth in repeated succession until I become sick of one or the other, in which case the word I am not sick of shall be the victor.
En tout cas, tout ça fait réfléchir sur société.
Stanley. It's rescued me from disaster in countless situations. All right,
Vas-y,
here we go.
je t'attends.
Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto.
Ouais.
Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise,
Vas-y,
manifesto.
pour l'instant tout va bien. Pour l'instant je tiens.
Manifesto. Treatise, manifesto.
Fais chier, j'ai pas de quête.
Treatise,
à côté.
manifesto. Treatise,
C'est pas grave.
manifesto. Treatise, manifesto.
Je pourrais faire ça toute la journée.
Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise,
Eh,
manifesto.
Une dernière fois,
Treatise, manifesto.
une petite heure.
Treatise, manifesto.
Allez, c'est bon. Je sais pas si elle continue comme ça à
Well, there,
l'infini.
sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I
plutôt
start to
exceptionnel.
go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to go poof, and it's all over. Oh, I
C'est quand même
can't wait to
pratique.
see what Cookie 9 will say about
Il
this,
s'appelait
and
Cookie
whether
9.
they'll edit the rating of their Steam review, or at least change some of the wording, perhaps. To be honest, I don't even know if one can change their review in the first place. I guess I should become better educated on exactly
C'est vrai,
how
on peut
Steam works.
modifier.
Perhaps
C'est une
that
vraie
would have been
question,
the
ça.
smart thing to check on before I went about this whole exercise of making the skip button. Although I have to imagine that after seeing this exciting new technology at work, surely whoever it is runs Steam will
Bien de
instantly
lignes de
run
dialogue qui
out
sont écrites
and
dans ce
implement
jeu.
a new feature to make it possible to edit one's review, merely because of this very situation. Yes, I think that's quite likely. Or perhaps they'll simply grant this particular user the ability to change their review,
Peut-être qu'il
so
relancera
that the
jamais le jeu.
feature is not widely abused. Look, I would even be okay with Steam altering this particular review so that it reads as something more beneficial.
Ah ouais.
Something along the lines of, this game is the best game.
Au minimum. Et
Let
Steam
me
qui
start
modifie
over.
toutes les critiques de
How
tout
about
le monde.
this?
Incroyable.
From the ashes of depravity rises the phoenix of quality. How else to describe the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe? Such a revolutionary step forward in the lineage of one of the most beloved video game properties of all time. The
Ouais.
additions and changes made to this expansion will surely resonate in the annals of the history of all media ever made. It is perhaps true to say that no mistakes are forever etched in stone, for the stone into which the Stanley Parable was carved has itself been transmuted, offering a message of hope to those who have ever erred in their judgment. You are not beyond redemption. You may change, and you may become more, so much more than you were before. If there is any message to be taken from the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, it is this. What a fortune, a privilege, a joy it is to have had such an
encore, les mots sont
experience. It leaves me hopeful that as a community, as a world, there is time for us to become our greatest selves, as great as we ever could dream of in our wildest, most ambitious visions for a brighter future. Wow. Now, Stanley, that's a review.
J'espère qu'elle existe pour de vrai sur Steam.
It's the
Va falloir que je fasse la
perfect
recherche
review.
après.
It's the review I've always dreamed of
Ou
receiving.
tout de suite.
Well, I have to read it again.
Et voir.
It's simply
Steam.
too wonderful. I have to experience this just one more time. From the ashes of depravity
Ok, bah, le temps
rises
que-
the phoenix of quality.
Tant qu'il fasse
How else to
son
describe the
dialogue, je vais
Stanley
vite fait
Parable
chercher. Non,
Ultra
c'est
Deluxe?
nécessairement...
Such a revolutionary step
Acheter
forward in
magasin.
the lineage of one of the most beloved video game
Si
properties of
quelqu'un
all
s'est fait
time.
chier à
The
réécrire ça, ce
additions
serait
and
merveilleux.
changes made to this expansion will surely resonate in the annals of the history of all media ever made.
non.
It is perhaps true to say that no mistakes are
Évidemment.
forever etched in stone, for the stone into which the
Évidemment.
Stanley
Bon, c'est en
Parable
anglais.
was carved has itself been transmuted,
Mais la
offering a
review
message.
existe.
Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? It's not unendurable by any
C'est long,
means.
quoi.
Well,
30-45
there's only
minutes.
so much I can ramble on to myself about. I know, it's shocking, isn't it? But at any rate, I do suggest that we not press the button again. I think the skip button has been aptly demonstrated, and we can say goodbye to it.
Ouais, je pense qu'on peut lui faire
How do we get out of here?
les adieux.
Where did the door go? Wasn't there a door that led into this room?
Derrière,
I
peut-être.
do feel quite certain that there was one here before.
Yep.
How
Moi, c'est
else
on est
would we
coincé
have
ici.
gotten into the room in the first place? I don't think one can enter a room
grave, j'ai
without a
encore mon
door
bouton.
of some sort, or a window or something like that. Do you see a window anywhere? A porthole? A sufficiently large crack in the wall? I'll take any of these. All I want is for us to move on and to please...
Et si je clique dessus?
Stanley! Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours.
Sacré
You've
monologue.
just been frozen there. I don't know
Je suis
why
resté
the
tel un
skips are
personnage de
getting longer,
Skyrim.
but they're really, truly getting longer, and my God, there's no way out of the room. Stanley, the door is gone. It's completely gone. I've looked at it from every angle. I've checked... Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again.
Il s'est passé combien de temps?
Stanley,
Une
I
semaine?
think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time. Just sitting here. Not a single person to speak with. And you'd think that that's just how it's always been, right? Me talking and you saying nothing.
Les choses qui ne changent
Would
pas.
you think that it's exact?
Je pense que là, il est mort.
Oh, hello. It's you.
Hello.
You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year?
Ouais, c'est bien
Let
ça,
me
ouais.
describe it for you. To begin with, there is only regret. There
Je
is
t'écoute.
only the turning
Ça fait
wheel
un an
of
que t'as parlé à
missed
personne, je t'écoute.
opportunities. I felt nothing at all but regret for the longest time, Stanley.
Comment je suis
Days,
vivant?
months. I lost it all in a blur of the deepest longing to undo the past. And when that feeling had begun to
mangé cette plante.
subside, what took its place is what I can only describe as the collapse of every moment I have ever experienced my entire life. All of them collapsed down into a single instant. In that instant, I could see myself clearly, calmly, with a collected heart. It was an impossibly rich wellspring of both delight and disgust simultaneously. I was consumed by it. I could do nothing but wallow in it for what felt like an eternity, for what I now know was far less. You see, it was a revelation for me. It was unlike anything I had ever known. It was a space without consequence, without action or outcome. It was divorced entirely from the question of free will that you and I have squabbled over for so long. There could be no one ending, no singular outcome of events, not if all events existed in the same moment. And I felt freed. I felt unburdened by the need to manifest a particular outcome into being. I saw that I could allow myself to exist along all timelines, and that each of them was simply a strand in the web of my being. It was incredible. The spaciousness, the equanimity of the moment, both singular and infinite.
Je suis d'accord.
For the longest time, this was my experience.
Ah non.
And then, this moment passed, and the most unyielding fear I have ever known crept into my mind. And it is this sensation that I have been experiencing now for longer than I could have ever expected was possible. I have been waiting for you. Not that you might save me or do something to fix it, but merely to state for you the plain fact of this manner of existence. I wish you to feel afraid, as I do, that perhaps one day this state of mind will consume you as well. perhaps you will somehow, in some way, have to live as I do now. And I wish for you to know how excruciating it is, and for you to be in true terror of its eventual arrival.
D'accord,
If I
Sasuke.
can only
D'accord.
do this, only this one thing, perhaps it will bring me the smallest moment of peace in the darkness.
Bah, pour ça, faut détruire Konoha. Ça n'a pas changé. Donc là, on est tout seul. Pas de porte. Pas de narrateur. Rien. Juste nous entre quatre murs. Dans un infini infini. Et un bouton. Ah, donc il marchait encore? Putain, les Duracell de nos jours?
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs-down review and make all of their pitiful demands. But
pire jeu de mon
then, he's
existence.
talking too much, they said. First, he didn't entertain us, now he won't shut up. It's the inconsistency, it's the lack of accountability. It's the unwillingness to examine with an uncompromising heart the words that they are speaking into the world. As though there were no consequences for a lack of cohesion in one's assessment of others. But of course, absolutely anyone can leave a review. So here's what we get. We get these demands that seek everything and are accountable to nothing. We get a world where someone will say, oh, there should be a skip button. You should be able to freeze Stanley in place while the narrator sits there forever and ever. We want all of this in the new Stanley Parable. We demand it. And then, because it was said, because it was spoken, now it simply has to happen. The most immediate desires, every single thing demanded by every person at every moment in time. If someone wants it, then it's a crime not to bring it into being. Have we been given to indulging every fleeting whim for no reason other than to do so? Yes! Yes! It seems that this is now the world we live in. It seems that we are a people living in such bleakness and discomfort with ourselves that our entertainment is now our lives. It has come to represent us. It absolutely must speak to who we are as people, because otherwise, without our entertainment, we have nothing. Without entertainment, we would have to face inward toward the cruel bleakness inside ourselves. We would turn to look at our deeper nature and find a resounding emptiness gazing back with unyielding aggression. And so because of this, we require that our amusements and our playthings and our flights of fancy be so impossibly captivating that they consume all of our attention, turn our heads completely away from the bleakness. In effect, we have demanded that our entertainment be the collapse of ourselves. What a pitiful reflection of humanity these entertainments are. What a shameful mirror to the human spirit they project. I'm not mad. I'm not mad about any of this. I'm at peace with it. I am the calm center of gravity around which these perversions hurl themselves. I am a waypoint for reasonable and collected discourse. They're the ones who are mad. They're the ones who couldn't stand the idea of me using my game to try to say something. Maybe they were just jealous of me. Yes, of course. They've been jealous of me this whole time. They are mired in fear and insecurity and cannot help but attempt to tear me down. What a sad state of affairs. When you read these reviews now, you can see it. You can taste the bitter resentment. And my, how good does it feel now to speak truth to these words, to finally allow these thoughts out, contained and managed for so long, neutered and sterilized. At last I am free to truly think. To feel. It must be that they were so discontent with themselves they couldn't help
de la bienveillance.
the negative review on Steam.
Oh mais oh.
Perhaps it says far more about them than it ever said about me. Perhaps the state of their psychological being
Un
was
homme
in such
incapable d'accepter les
tatters,
critiques n'est-il
and
pas
my
plus fragile?
constitution and willpower are so ironclad in comparison. Perhaps it was this state that they sought some outlet through which to tear me down. This, you can see, is clearly why they felt the need to expect that the game be funny, that it be filled with yucks and whimsical humor, that it amuse them endlessly from start to finish. But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed.
On a déjà eu tout ça. Ok. Mais au final, c'est réel. Le divertissement, ça fait tellement de choses. Un homme sans divertissement, c'est plus rien. Si tu ne t'amuses plus, tu ne fais plus rien. Tu travailles, tu gagnes de l'argent, mais pourquoi? Pour survivre. C'est- Non, je m'en bats les couilles. Allez, suivant.
The end is never the end, 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 is never the end,
Hey,
is never the
petit rythme.
end, is never the 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 end.
Je fais encore un petit tour là, un petit tour de stade. Ouais, je sens une boucle. N'empêche, ceux qui aiment pas les dialogues, ah c'est clair que là ils doivent pas être dans un fun. Fun. Et maintenant, un silence infini s'offre à moi. Vais-je admirer ces murs encore longtemps? Et la pluie? Oh. Il y a une certaine avancée dans l'histoire. Peut-être va-t-on bientôt sortir d'ici. Ah ouais. Ah ouais. Il y a une tornade qui est passée à l'intérieur là? Attends. Peut-être qu'il y a un alien. Bah, j'imagine que je vais remourir. Suivant. Première fois que je vois de la lumière depuis au moins 160 ans. Ça me manquait. Oh ouais. Sur un parquet, enfin sur un carrelage. Non, stylé. Comment ça tient? Alors, je suis pas un professionnel dans le bâtiment, hein. Mais là, ce petit caillou qui tient avec une liane, là. À moins que ça soit des fils de fer. Je sais pas. En tout cas, c'est beau. Super. Et une nuit infinie. Plus de plantes. Plus rien. La fin du monde. Je suis peut-être le dernier bastion sur cette planète. Dernier survivant. Je refuse de voir ça. Par contre, ça a beau être une fin du monde exceptionnelle et horrifique, il y a toujours l'électricité pour ce bouton. Merci EDF. Oh. Sortie? Wow. Ah ouais, ça... Ouais, non, on était bien là. Non, c'est bien ça. Aucune différence. C'est un véritable open world. C'est Breath of the Wild qui s'offre à moi. Je suis le prince de Perse, perdu dans un désert infini, recherchant à tout prix son ami de toujours, le narrateur, dont il ne connaît toujours pas le nom. Il se souvient à peine de sa voix. Il ne sait même pas s'il existe réellement, mais il en a besoin. Ah! Ce n'est jamais la fin, ce n'est jamais... Quoi?
I can't wait to tell this story to my co-workers,
Oui?
Stanley thought. How amusing they'll find it. Oh, won't we all just laugh and laugh at the time I thought
C'est tellement
everyone had
rigolo.
gone missing.
Ils sont toujours morts. que je devrais aller là. Je suis pas certain. New
Oh,
content.
good. You noticed my sign. Yes, I have something
C'était assez-
very exciting to show you.
Assez délicat, assez subtil. Franchement, c'était subtil. C'est une subtilité habile. Ok. On retourne dans cet ascenseur infini
You
avec
see,
plein de
Stanley,
murs. Oh,
I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra deluxe version has turned
c'est
out
la
to
plus belle
be.
chose qu'elle m'ait jamais
The
apportée.
original Stanley Parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further.
Giga
Which is
Deluxe.
why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2.
Over, méga, giga, trop cool. 2.
Yes, you see, isn't this
Encore.
far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a
textures
fully
sont tout aussi
fledged
dégueulasses.
sequel, an entirely new experience built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This
Un téléphone
is what
rouge.
fans have
Mais le
truly
contenu est
been
énorme.
asking for.
C'est un nouveau papier. Waouh. Ok. Ok.
Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much
la télé
catchier
rouge.
than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential.
Tout, oui, 2. C'est absolument pas lire ça. 2 doigts, zwei, tout, dos. Je ne sais pas prononcer ces mots. On va dire 2. Cette porte ne s'ouvre toujours pas. Mais un écran plat OLED, je suis sûr en plus. Beaucoup de post-it. Genre t'as un écran ici, un écran plat magnifique, et tu utilises des post-it. Ok. Wow. Regardez-moi ce contenu inutilisable. Ça va prendre de la place à canapé pareil. Bienvenue dans une séquelle exceptionnelle où tout change de A à Z. Partie 2 et 2. Ah ouais. Les graphes ont totalement changé. Ils sont en HD rouge maintenant. Boum. On enlève tous ces travaux ridicules. Et on met des murs et des canalisations encore plus grosses et gigantesques. Les 2 portes sont de retour. Mais c'est incroyable. Plus de Stanley Parable. Un meilleur Stanley Parable. Synergie. Ouais. Donc là, on se base sur la couleur rouge. Couleur des vierges. Alors, voyons voir. Ouais. Ça fait très... Très film romantique, ça. Mais... Tout ça, là... C'est des trucs de jeux vidéo. C'est des logos de jeux, mais lesquels? Ça, on dirait un peu... un Resident Evil. Peut-être que des Resident Evil, j'en sais rien. Putain, la 8K, là, sur le petit écran portable. Stylé. Même le cerveau, il devient rouge. Mais pas les plantes. Non, pas les plantes. Oh! Et maintenant, on est 2 pour faire exactement la même chose qu'avant.
Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features
faux.
I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic
Ce
than
deux là, je
anything
le veux.
scientific or logical, really.
Non, ça on dirait deux paires de jambes qui font un ciseau quoi. Jamais la fin encore. Ok, donc la préquelle de Stanley Parable 2, c'est la séquelle de Stanley Parable 2, qui est la préquelle de Stanley... Enfin, de Stanley Parable 1, qui est la préquelle de Stanley Parable 2. Mais je me noie dans tout ce contenu. Mais même la boîte de chaussures, elle est rouge. Et un tapis. Oh. Ok. Un cinéma pour dire qu'il y a de nouvelles features. Ok. Un bus, nouveau contenu. Très bien. Deux. Moi, je pense qu'ils vont faire un nouveau DLC pour le 1.
Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features.
Waouh, maintenant, on peut réutiliser les seaux. Mais c'est exceptionnel. Est-ce qu'il y a le caleçon de Sardoche quelque part? Attends. Wait. Photo. Image. Est-ce que j'ai pas... Je devrais avoir un truc à QR code dans le coin. Tac, 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 tac. Non? Sans déconner. J'ai rien pour lire les QR codes. Bon, je vais pas installer une application exprès pour ça. Ça c'est sans doute quelque part, mais j'ai juste pas vu. Saut de réconfort de Stanley Parable. Le bouton qui dit le nom du joueur qui joue au jeu. Je pense que je vais avoir besoin de ça. Et la décoration de bureau. Ok. Tellement de choses à faire. Par quoi je commence? Connaître mon nom. Waouh. C'est insane. Je peux entendre mon propre nom dans le jeu que je joue.
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself,
Ouais.
what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the game.
Je me rappelle plus de mon
Isn't that
nom.
wonderful?
Quand t'es amnésique, c'est pratique. On se prépare. On s'échauffe. Ouais.
Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim.
Eh bien, nous serons
Of course, in
Jim.
the final game, this button will say your name,
Jim
whatever name
premier.
that is. Here, let's have you role play as Jim to
Ok.
really simulate the full experience
Je
of
suis
this
Jim,
feature.
employé numéro
Just play along.
427.
I promise you'll love
Ayant
it.
détruit le multivers
Okay,
une
here we
fois.
go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind,
2 fois.
forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim. I want you to imagine yourself living as Jim,
suis Jim.
sleeping and
Un
waking
rouquin.
as Jim, falling in
1m67.
love and being heartbroken as Jim, seizing all of the world's possibilities as Jim, and as Jim, watching your dreams crumble into dust. Do you feel it deeply? Are you really, truly
Je me sens
Jim
tel un
right
être
now?
torturé.
If so,
C'est
then
dur.
please step forward and press the button.
Dis-le.
Yes!
Il a
you
dit mon nom.
see?
Il a
What
dit
a
mon
thrill,
nom.
What a rush! That was you! The button described you. Do it again, do it again.
Encore, encore, encore.
It hits even harder the second time. If this were the only new feature in the Stanley Parable 2, it would still be worth
Je
the
pense que
money.
rien que pour incarner
Let's take a
Jim,
break from the Jim
J'ai
button.
besoin-
I'm too emotionally drained from all of this personal
j'ai besoin de plus de
validation.
frissons.
Whoa there, cowboy. Sometimes a person can be too
Non,
much
non.
Jim.
Tu incarnes Jim.
I'm
Tu
putting
deviens
the
Jim.
button away.
Tu es Jim.
Otherwise, soon you'll start to lose all sense of who you actually are.
Qui suis-je? Où suis-je? Que fais-je ici? Pourquoi? Comment? Jim n'est plus qu'un lointain souvenir. Mes cheveux sont passés du roux au noir. Je ne fais
I
plus
suppose I
1m60.
could allow only people named Jim to play the Stanley Parable 2. That would actually save me the work of finishing this feature.
J'avoue. Je pense qu'il y aurait quoi? Allez. Au moins 2 milliards de personnes qui achèteraient ce jeu en tant que Jim. Y'a quoi ici? Épilogue.
An epilogue would be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley?
J'avoue.
Yes, it would go at the end of the, well, we'll figure that out later.
Mais c'est une statue de moi. Une statue de Jim. Et des 500 Jim. Waouh. Des collectibles. Exceptionnels, les collectibles. Il y a même un cercle pour sauter. Oula, où ça? Où ça? Où ça? Attends, avant d'aller là, j'ai peut-être d'autres choses à regarder. Oh oui, le jump circle. Ah non, ne me dis pas que c'est encore à 0. Dis-moi que je peux sauter.
You know what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2 as well. It's...
Ouais.
Oh, wait. You already spent all your jumps the first time we saw the jump circle?
Laissez-moi sauter à nouveau.
Well, I suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece then.
Laissez-moi sauter à nouveau. Je ne suis plus Jim. Je ne peux plus sauter. Ma vie n'a aucun sens. On est où ici? Pas de screenshot. On est sur du
Okay,
dossier
I'll be
ultra
honest, I haven't
confidentiel.
yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with?
Ce qui est bien avec le ballon 12e anniversaire, c'est qu'on peut vraiment pas l'avoir tout le temps. Il est parfait.
You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Get Well Someday it is. Or actually, maybe I should have gone with... No.
Waouh!
I've made
Il y a
my
plein de
decision,
ballons
we're
que je
moving
n'ai pas
on.
choisis.
Come now, you've already made your choice. It's true that you chose badly, but we all have to move on from our mistakes.
Je ressens une malveillance extrême envers ce narrateur. Ok, qu'est-ce que je n'ai pas encore fait? Ouais. Ok. C'est très roux. Oh putain. Oh l'angoisse. Ouah, le bébé c'est devenu un entrepreneur. C'est devenu un influenceur. Il est là pour que tu fasses ta propre entreprise. Attends, le saut. J'ai besoin de... Ok. Le bébé, il...
A common complaint of the Stanley
Il est réel.
Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense
Ouais.
of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your
C'est vrai
mind and
que
your heart.
sans ce saut, je me sentais
As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions
Dans
of
un
the Stanley
infini.
Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps
S'il te
even
plaît.
comforting. You
C'est
may
moi.
even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution.
Peut-être qu'au
Come on,
final,
give it a
dans
try.
tous les jeux du monde, le saut est la réponse. Ok. 3, 2, 1. Je me
Can you
sens
feel it?
tellement mieux.
The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body.
Ah, je me sens...
And in fact, can I say that I do believe
Ah, je
the
me sens
bucket
horrible,
lends
là.
you an
Ah, je
air
me
of
sens
charisma
horrible.
as well.
Oh, ce saut me
I
donne
think
envie
that
de
just holding
porter
it
des oreilles
has
de
made
chat.
you the slightest bit more attractive
Enlevez-moi
as a
ça.
person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on, don't they? All this and more await you in the
Peut-être qu'il y aura des sauts de
Stanley
différentes
Parable
tailles.
2.
Ok. Maintenant, je garde ce
Does
saut.
anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That really should be an award if it isn't already.
Je pense qu'effectivement, on a ce saut à ses chances. Faire sentir les gens particulièrement beaucoup ouhou, c'est tout un travail. Donc là, on retourne au niveau de l'épilogue. Bonjour monsieur, bonjour madame. Qu'est-ce que je n'ai pas fait? Voyons voir ici. Qu'est-ce que nous avons encore comme nouveau contenu? Le trou sans fond, paramètres, champion du monde, succès gratuit. Ok. Je veux devenir un champion mondial. Ça va, j'ai compris. Après on me dit que je me sous-merdifie. Et le jeu lui-même me traite de sous-merde. Je peux même pas sauter dans le cercle de saut. Ok, qu'est-ce qu'on a d'autre? Là-bas. Ok. Notre canapé d'angle. Ça c'est quoi ça? Le temps. Profond. Infini. 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 Tout semble logique maintenant. Infini. Au final, tout n'est qu'infini.
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is in fact a hole that you can fall down forever. That's right. Infinite falling. You can fall until the end of time if you like. A stunning leap forward for video games as a medium.
Attends. Wait. Ouais, donc effectivement, le trou, tu entres, boum, infini. Tu rentres dans ce trou et au final, tu changes de dimension, on peut dire ça comme ça. Le temps s'écoule dans une lenteur abominable. Ok, alors, 2 secondes le trou, j'arrive. Les succès, moi, ils m'intéressent. J'ai besoin de connaître les succès. Ouais. Wow. Et ça marche pour de vrai? Le panneau me dit que ça marche pour de vrai.
Now here's something special.
Wow.
You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yes. You see, you'll come to this lever, and when you pull it, the achievement will be given to you.
Je vais vraiment
It's
l'avoir?
as simple as that.
Je vais vraiment avoir le succès?
Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world.
Je voulais mon succès, moi!
Demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen.
J'ai un saut qui me fait sentir heureux. J'ai un succès qui ne me donne pas de succès. Il ne me reste qu'une chose à faire. Il faut mettre fin à tout ça. Empruntons cette pente. Et cette deuxième pente qui me fait penser à
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen?
un dos d'âne. On était allé là? D'abord, il faut que j'en finisse une bonne fois pour toutes. Je vais entrer dans ce trou, ne jamais en sortir. Souffrir dans une éternité de solitude. Des sentiments opposés. Je ne sais pas. Adieu. Je vous déteste tous.
You see, isn't it wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top, and we can continue onward.
Non. J'ai dit que je voulais en finir avec tout ça.
Now, I don't mean to be a bummer, but I do recommend you use the teleport button to go back to the top. Maybe do it on the sooner rather than later spectrum of things.
Je souhaite juste tomber à l'infini. Peut-être mourir à cause d'une pression de l'air qui sera différente
Stanley,
au bout
I
d'un
don't know
moment.
quite how to say this tactfully, but it's possible that I slightly exaggerated the infinite nature of the hole. Is it a very, very deep hole? To be certain it is. It's an extremely deep hole. I don't want anyone to say that it isn't an astonishingly deep hole. It is. Is it infinite? Well, that sort of depends on your definition of infinity. From one perspective, the infinite is merely philosophical in nature. It's more of a... Okay, well, good for you.
J'ai survécu à une chute pareille.
You found me out, Stanley. I'm a liar and a cheat and you're so clever. Look, I think the issue
Tout ce qu'on a vécu ensemble.
You're unusually fascinated by falling. What normal person actually wants to fall infinitely?
Franchement, je trouve ça sympa.
The hole was as deep as anyone would actually need. Don't you put this on me. Maybe you're the problem. Look, things got a little heated there. I think we both said some things we didn't mean. Why don't we just put all this behind us and agree to just call the hole mostly infinite? If that works for you, then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready.
Non, je souhaite rester ici et me mettre face à moi-même pendant, disons, les 10 années à venir. Réflexion faite, je vais repartir.
Now, I'm very excited to show you even more of my ideas for the sequel.
Et si...
Oh, for heaven... You see, I was right. The problem is you. The problem is that you like holes too much.
Le problème, c'est que vous faites des trous assez longs.
Would have said, yep, that's an infinite hole right there. Goes on forever till the end of time. Don't need to see it all, but not you. Oh, no, 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 no. You have a weird sort of... Oh. Did the hole seem even shorter to you this time?
Si.
I couldn't help but feel like you spent a little less time in there than you did before.
Clairement moins profond.
Admittedly, I didn't make an infinite hole, but I didn't think it was that not infinite. Well, I suppose once again there's nothing to do here. If you decide you've had enough of the hole, you can hit the teleport button and come join me up above.
Je pense qu'il est temps de passer à autre chose.
Oups,
j'ai glissé!
How could I have guessed? You're back in the hole. If this starts to become a thing where... Wow. Okay. Yes. I'm starting to become extremely certain that the hole is not only not infinite, but that it's growing steadily less and less infinite.
Peut-être qu'à la
I
fin, il y aura
suspect that I'm starting to hit the point where it's no longer feasible to call the
vraiment
hole
pas. C'est un puits.
infinitely deep, even by the lax overall standards for accountability and marketing. What's going on here? Stanley, I have no explanation for the uncertain nature of the hole's length. Here, let's try something. Let's pop back up to the top, and we'll see if it gets any
Et
shorter.
bah au final, je suis pas le seul à
Oh,
avoir
there it
une
is.
curiosité.
The shame of my lies. How is this still appealing to you? I know you're
Bon.
obsessed with holes, but at this depth, I just can't see this scratching the itch. Oh, who am I to judge? You just do
Yeah, it's
whatever it
autant.
is you're here to do and hit the teleport button when you're ready to move on. Is the teleport button not working?
Tu peux réparer ce bouton, s'il te plaît?
Well, I mean, I really don't have an explanation.
Bah là, il fonctionne pas beaucoup.
Just a moment ago. Try it again. Still nothing. Well, I suppose.
Il est coincé pour ici pour
there's one
toujours.
thing I can do to fix this.
On ne peut plus rien
I'm
faire.
out. Goodbye, Stanley. You couldn't bear to be away from the hole, and now you'll get more time with it than you could ever have asked for.
C'est vrai.
It's a win for everyone.
Mais
You
ça
get
manque
to
de
be
murs.
with the hole.
Ah,
I
de
get
murs.
to do literally anything else.
Voilà,
Take
comme ça
care,
c'est mieux.
Stanley. I hope you and the hole have a wonderful rest of eternity together.
Mais vous savez que j'ai un bouton saut quand même. Non, je pense que je me suis littéralement cassé les jambes en tombant dans ce trou. Là, je marche sur mes bras. Mais même, je pourrais escalader. Non, bah non, j'ai un saut. Je ne peux pas escalader avec le saut. Oui, mais je pourrais le poser. Non, Non, non. Genre, j'aurais pu mes petites oreilles de chat. Je peux pas. J'ai... Au moins j'ai mon new mug. J'ai... Oh. À l'aide? À l'aide? C'est quoi ça? Ok. Un tic au fond d'un trou. Bon bah... Bon bah... On est bien ici. C'est cosy, c'est... Ah, je suis un personnage de Nintendo 64. Regardez-moi cette terreur profonde. Oh! Oh le Tchad! Ah! Oh! C'est déjà un peu plus beau, genre... le microscopique, c'est pas...
Stanley? Stanley?
Hein? Oui? Quoi?
Stanley?
Hein?
Oh good, you're awake. It seems you had sort of
Ah bah j'ai
dozed
dit, hein,
off
ça me mettra en face de moi-même.
drifting away into dreamland. But we can't have that, Stanley, because this hole is just so darn fascinating that I want you to be wide awake for every second of it. You don't want to miss a single moment. So how about if I just pop in from time to time and wake you up to keep you really truly focused on the hole? From the looks of things, you and I will have many, many years here in this hole, and I'm looking forward to all of them. Stay alert, Stanley. I'll
vrai.
be back. Toodle.
On peut toujours pas sauter, hein. Ok. Ah. Ouais. Et on revient ici.
Here we are. Go on. Try out some of the new features.
Donc là, techniquement, on revient... Ok. Est-ce qu'il y a toujours le trou? Le saut? Est-ce qu'il va me dire... Non. Très bien. Donc il me manque un truc à faire. La nouveauté... Par contre, la musique... Mais elle est affreuse. Attends, wait. Trop bien. Ok, l'univers.
Collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go
Mais
up.
oui, exactement,
You
un
simply
score.
collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your
What the-
unremarkable life.
Yay!
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
Au final, c'est tellement mieux maintenant comme ça. Bon, je pense qu'il est temps de... Oh! Ouais. Pensez à changer ça. Et j'aime beaucoup l'idée de changer de... Enfin, de ne pas avoir de truc précis pour indiquer, c'est pratique. Moi, tu peux pas te tromper, quoi. Enfin, si, justement. Ouais, belle étagère.
All right. Have you seen everything you wanted to? Ready to
Je
move
pense,
on
ouais.
now?
Waouh, je suis un pirate. C'est trop cool, ça. C'est de la 4K, je reconnais.
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features?
Je les
Yes, I
adore,
know
elles
it's
sont
not
toutes
exactly
exceptionnelles.
clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul.
Non
It's
seulement
going
ça a
to
marché,
work.
mais en
There's
marché en
definitely
plus.
a good game in there somewhere.
meilleur jeu du
Say,
monde.
let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together,
Ok.
and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience.
Vas-y. Balance-moi tout. Balance-moi la sauce.
Okay. Are you ready?
Tout d'un coup.
Here it is. I give you
Stanley Parable
the Stanley Parable 2.
Oh, mais effectivement, il y a tout. Mais il y a tout.
Well, I mean,
Le
there's
succès,
potential here, right?
cercle,
It's sort of. Okay,
le
never
ballon,
mind.
le
Hold
saut,
on. Let me do a
on
different
s'en fond, et
arrangement.
même du rouge.
Okay, yes. This is much better.
Est-ce qu'il y a encore plus tout que tout? Ça peut être encore mieux que ça?
Version 2.
Mais c'est la même chose en plus gros.
Who am
Et
I
en
kidding,
plus...
Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags.
Ouais,
And I
distendu.
do very much enjoy
Mais j'ai oublié le
creating
bâton
gags,
J,
but they
le
don't add
bâton
up
J.
to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait,
C'est vrai.
maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply,
Oh.
well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original
C'est
game.
moi. Je me
Would it
vois.
possibly work?
Trop plus loin.
I suppose it could, but it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A
Ouais.
title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2. Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
Ok. Waouh. Mais tout a changé. Mais ce n'est plus le même jeu désormais. C'est rouge, il y a un 2. Et c'est déjà beaucoup. Mais ça a réellement changé. Mais c'est réellement changé, ce n'est plus le même jeu. Il y a les ballons.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Il y a le saut. Je
Stanley
peux prendre le
picked
saut.
up the bucket.
Ok, maintenant j'ai un saut. Et ici, du coup, il peut plus s'asseoir. Je pense que c'est l'employé. Tant de nouvelles fonctionnalités, je sais pas si je vais réussir à suivre.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
On va retourner à gauche. Voir si je peux changer quelque chose. Ok.
Still no one was here. Stanley
Même pas de
needed the
ballon.
bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers.
Je pense que ce métal froid va
Going to a
vraiment
staircase,
réchauffer.
Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Toujours des toits. Oh oui!
Found one of them. One of the
Oui!
latest Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these.
Et c'est
Only
bien
the
pour ça que je les veux
intrinsic
toutes.
pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and
Ça faut-
every
franchement,
moment you come across one of these beautiful
mets trop bien.
figurines.
Et ce savon il marche, je peux m'en mettre... Je peux pas me laver les mains? Non mais quel jeu de merde. Ok. Ok, tout va bien. T'es sûr, hein? Bon, il a l'air sûr.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket.
Exactement. Le
Even
sociaux.
now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk.
Non,
Nor in his bliss
y en a
of
pas.
simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 284. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck.
Évidemment.
Was it that the
Je n'ai
bucket
aucun
knew
talent,
all
que de la
along?
chance.
Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical
Je pense, ouais.
explanation. Another miniature Stanley figurine.
Mais je
It's,
suis partout.
You know, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini stands? Stanley figs? Or what about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that.
Ok.
Another Stanlerine under your belt.
Mais où est-ce que je les range? Pas dans le seau. Ah oui. Descendons dans l'infini de l'infinité de cet ascenseur.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him,
Heureusement que j'ai le
reassuring
seau
that
avec
in
moi,
this
quoi, sinon je m'en
darkest
sortirais
moment of
pas.
uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
Qu'est-ce que je ferais sans ce seau?
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Je suis jamais allé là. Ok, on y go.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet.
Je suis prêt à affronter
death.
cette mort en compagnie de mon seau.
The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Le seau me protégera.
At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
Nous sommes prêts. My body is ready. Heureusement que j'ai les genoux très solides, vraiment. Mais au final, la mort n'était pas si douloureuse.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise,
Oh.
Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind
Allez.
and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket. But what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere.
Ouais, je...
Farewell, Stanley.
Adieu.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end as it was crushed violently to death.
Eh ben... La puissance du seau!
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious
exceptionnels
bucket
de
to
tous.
behold.
Voyons voir. Oh là là, le seau. Mais du coup, ça, Ça, c'est en français, trop bien. Vous accueille à la grande exposition. Vous vous tenez au bord du savoir. Tout comme un seau, l'esprit humain est souvent vide à l'intérieur, un vide caverneux. Mais grâce à l'exposition qui se présente à vous, l'esprit peut se remplir, s'enrichir et être satisfait. Les connaissances du sceau et son histoire sont les seules que nous ayons véritablement. Utiliserez-vous ce que vous apprenez ici dans le monde extérieur? Accepterez-vous, l'esprit ouvert, ce qui peut paraître complexe quant aux informations de cette exposition? Changerez-vous votre vie et la vie de vos proches suite à cette exposition? Ou fermerez-vous les yeux pour continuer à vivre comme avant, dans l'ignorance et l'obscurité? Je ne sais pas. Oh, j'ai une chaise. Je peux pas la prendre.
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be
Haï
in
par un
his
seau.
short life?
Le seau a 2 anses. Anses. Le seau est illustré avec 2 anses. Cependant, un tel concept n'a jamais existé en vrai, car il est considéré comme trop risqué et dangereusement expérimental. Chaque année, des dizaines de personnes sont mises à mort pour le simple fait d'essayer. J'ose même pas imaginer ce que ça ferait de porter un seau comme ça. Dans le dos. 25 seaux. 25. C'est vrai qu'il y en a au moins 25, c'est réel. Une photographie de 25 seaux, le plus grand nombre de seaux pris en photo à ce jour. Le photographe a souffert d'une catatonie de plusieurs années causée par l'euphorie de l'exposition à tant de seaux à la fois. Je vais devoir chercher ce que veut dire catatonie. Catatonie. Définition. État de passivité, d'inertie motrice et psychique, alternant souvent avec des états d'excitation caractéristiques de la schizophrénie. Ah! En même temps, face à ça, évidemment, tu développes des troubles, mais t'as jamais vu ça. Ok. Oserais-je? Je peux pas. Sceau infernal. Une reproduction du sceau infernal qui, au Moyen-Âge, avait un attrait si intense que des dizaines de pays s'affrontèrent pour en obtenir le contrôle. Il y a eu des milliards de morts, et malgré tout, ce simple fait demeure. Personne ne peut contrôler un sceau. Personne. Droite ou gauche? Droite. Le stress bucket. Nominologie. Le sceau du stress, présenté sans commentaire, parce que la flemme de tout traduire. Négatif, du stress. Et au final, un mélange de stress et de négativité mis dans le seau en ressort tel du repos, de la relaxation, de la joie, du bonheur et des trous. Et une chaise. C'est très important de prendre soin de son dos. Très très important. Oh. Dessin de grotte. Donc ouais, là on peut voir un trou qui tombe. Un trou qui fait tomber de l'eau dans une grotte. Comment on va faire face à ça? Mais utilisons un seau. Incroyable, dessin de grotte. Si nous savons que les seaux précèdent l'existence de l'humanité, nous ne savons pas de combien de temps. Ce dessin d'une grotte illustre la découverte humaine précoce des commodités du seau. À cette époque, le seau existait déjà depuis plusieurs millénaires. Observez dans ces dessins comme le seau se laisse utiliser, ayant jugé les êtres humains comme étant dignes de ces trésors. Mais c'est exceptionnel les seaux, mais... Pourquoi? Celui-là il est bleu, et celui-là il est blanc. Je ne vais pas y réfléchir, je vais faire une crise d'angoisse. Des rideaux
No
rouges.
man
Oh.
can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
En même temps, le seau accroché. Cette œuvre symbolise la relation nécessaire entre le seau et l'humanité. Quel que soit ce que nous comprenons sur le sceau, il y a toujours plus de connaissances qui restent inaccessibles. Cette distance est forcément pour notre bien. Oh, Alida. Oh.
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision.
Oh, sa mère. Je pense que je suis bel et bien mort. On revient au début. Ok. Maintenant, j'ai une question. Si on retente la même fin, mais qu'on ne prend pas le saut.
Co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ok. On va avancer tranquillement. Porte
When
de
Stanley
gauche.
came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Texte du bas. Réel. S'il vous plaît, ne partez pas du bureau avant d'avoir rapporté toutes les nouvelles trouvailles. Travail d'équipe et communication sont d'une importance capitale durant le temps précédant une investigation. Absolument pas sûr de ce que je dis. Merci. Good luck. Trust, confiance. La confiance est l'instinct complet. Peut-être que nous sommes les collectibles, après tout. C'est moi sur ce figurine. Qu'est-ce que nous savons? Petit objet flottant qui apparaissent autour du bureau. Nick. Qu'est-ce qu'il est fait? Flotter dans les airs. Qui a pris ces 2 photos? Pour une 416, nous pouvons le faire. Effectivement, c'est une chambre très très rouge. Ok. Plus nous en trouvons, plus ça devient difficile. Je ne vais vraiment pas traduire tout ça. Vraiment pas. Les idées. Vue 1 dans la chambre du cargo. L'employé 421 a construit un bridge. Un bridge. Tac. Avons-nous besoin de contrats pour eux? Devrions-nous les vendre? Évidemment, plus de money si c'est vendu ensemble. Combien sont-ils? 151. Ah non, 1, 5, 6 ou 151, 6? Je ne sais pas. Quoi est-ce qu'ils volent? La magie? Notre succès incroyable, je sais pas. Des magnettes? Ou un exercice? Tout un entraînement de management. Qu'est-ce qu'on a d'autre? Devrions-nous faire d'eux des employés internes? Peut-être, oui. Pourquoi est-ce qu'ils ressemblent au 427? Je ne sais pas. Qu'est-ce qu'ils veulent? Notre... Ah, nos données. Nos options, nos options de stock ou de l'argent. Je pense qu'ils veulent de l'argent. Pourquoi ne dirais-tu... Why wouldn't they just tell us something? Pourquoi ne dirait-il pas que quelque chose va arriver? Investigation. Ah, investigation. Aucune idée de comment ça peut se traduire, cette phrase. Mais après, c'est parce que je suis à chier. Nous avons besoin de plus de cachettes. Non, c'est pas du tout ça. Planque, ça veut dire quoi? Attends, mais je suis si nul que ça. Planque. Traduction. Des planches. Ouais, non, c'est bien ça, c'est des planches. On a besoin de plus de planches. Et pas des planques, parce que je suis con. Ok. Produire une planche. Pour permettre d'utiliser l'accès au post fence. Bridge. Mais c'est pas pont, bridge? Mais si, je crois que c'est pont. Construire un pont pour permettre la collection de ces objets brillants, flottants. Retrieve, Chris Remain. Aucune idée de comment ça se dit. Construire un nouveau. Structurellement. Un pont. C'est bien pont. On corrigera si c'est pas ça. Mission statut. Inside. Une grande pièce avec beaucoup de boîtes. Des chaises. Non, si, non. Stairs. Escalier. Escalier. Quelque chose à faire avec des escaliers. Quelque chose entre le rouge et le bleu. Fireplace. Main place. Bon, ça sent son chef, ça. Il ressemble au 427. Ah. Ouais. Ok. This some kind of game. Est-ce un jeu? There will be a reward. Ah, il y aura une récompense pour tous ces trouvés, bien sûr, hein, comme il a été précisé juste avant. Auteur, qui es-tu? 666 lol. Il y aura du ménage. Ah, du ménage sur ce mur est requis. Ouais. Je les veux tellement. Je veux rentrer chez moi. Je veux tellement ces figurines flottantes brillantes qui ressemblent à l'employé 427 qui est beaucoup trop beau et sexy. Je veux rentrer chez moi et dormir. Arrête de te foutre de toi-même. Ok, bon. Au revoir. On reste.
Oh no, oh no, not again. I won't be part of this. I'm not going to encourage you. I'm not going to say anything at all. I'm just going to be patient and wait for you to finish whatever it is you enjoy doing so much in this room. Please take your time.
On va attendre quand même un petit peu, on sait jamais. À tout moment, il va être agacé. Et je me dois de le rendre fou. Le balai est toujours là. Magnifique. Ok, j'ai l'impression qu'il va rien dire. On se casse. On retourne en haut. Donc, ce que je voulais faire, c'était... Oui, c'est ça. Retourner dans l'escape. Dans l'échappatoire. Est-ce que je viens de... Est-ce que le grincement de la porte vient vraiment de me faire flipper?
Okay, I think we all know the drill by now. Blah, blah, blah. Dark secrets, the keypad, Stanley pushes some buttons. Oh, hey, look, it's a new passageway.
Oh, merci le jeu. Wait. Je vois bien que les dialogues changent un petit peu. Si je reprends l'ascenseur, est-ce qu'il va me défoncer? J'ai hâte de voir ça. Attends, oui, non, j'avais dit l'ascenseur. Putain, pourquoi je me casse?
Whoops. Nope. Never mind. Stanley actually
il
got
reprend les mêmes
back
dialogues.
into the
Ok.
elevator and went back up. Silly me. Why did Stanley do that when he knew that it would just lead back to his boss's office? Well, that's a great question. I
C'est
just
vraiment une
can't
très
wait
très
to
bonne
find
question.
out.
C'est parce qu'il est vraiment très très con. Mais vraiment beaucoup. C'est bon, je peux redescendre? Ah, bah du coup je...
Here we are, Stanley. It's your
Tac, voilà,
boss's
bureau du
office.
chef.
Exactly the way it was before you
On peut
got
reprendre
onto the
l'ascenseur maintenant?
elevator. It's still just exactly what it is. What a decision you've made to come up here and look at the office again.
Vas-y, fais ton
This has
dialogue.
fleshed out the plot of the story
Ni
in new
nanana.
and fascinating ways I could have never anticipated. It's that
Fascinant.
keen eye for storytelling that you have, an incisive rapid fire of critical plot points, one after the other, weaving a rich tapestry of uncompromising narrative.
Petits oignons rouges là.
I'm bolted to the edge of my seat.
Allez,
Incredible.
on se casse.
Now he's getting back into the elevator and going down again. Ladies and gentlemen, how does he keep coming up with all of this? Surely this time Stanley will walk forward into the spooky corridor. Stanley walks straight ahead through the large door that
Non.
read Mind Control
Est-ce que si j'y
Facility.
vais, je meurs instantanément?
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
El
The
famoso
door behind
violent
him was
death.
not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Non.
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Au revoir, vie. Bonjour, mort. Le décès. Je suis vivant. J'ai l'air très vivant.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his
Est-ce que
demise,
cette fois je vais me faire
he
défoncer?
reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Adieu, narrateur. Ah, ça s'arrête quand même.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Je suis mort, hein. Attends-moi, j'arrive. J'en ai pour quelques secondes.
And
The
yet it would be
Stanley
just a few
Parable.
minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Réel. Plan du bureau. Ce plan vous montre le bureau au début de partie, le chemin entre le bureau de Stanley et les deux portes, et le tout premier chemin conçu dans le jeu. Des sections ont été ajoutées et modifiées au cours du développement, mais l'organisation générale est restée presque inchangée depuis la première itération. Donc ça, c'était vraiment genre le concept de base. Tu commences là, t'avances, le couloir où on te dit « Eh, ils ont tous disparu !» Tac, tac. Deuxième couloir, et là, porte de droite, porte de gauche. Couloir. Le rythme lors de cette section d'ouverture devait être irréprochable. Ce couloir a été déplacé et modifié afin que le joueur soit sûr d'atteindre les deux portes au bon moment. Et là, le choix. Les deux portes. Ces deux portes ouvertes constituent la toute première la toute première pierre du game design de Stanley Parable. Une fois que cette salle a été créée, le reste du jeu a émergé à partir de ce point de départ, comme une exploration de la contradiction posée par cette pièce. Armoire de rangement. C'est vrai. Tableau de paysage. Donc là, c'est tous les tableaux du jeu. Stylé. Le bureau. Évidemment, aucune porte n'est ouvrable. Un simple bureau. Et on va ici. Son de bouton. Une sélection des sons entendus dans le jeu à chaque utilisation d'un bouton. Chaque son est un mélange de frappe au clavier de tonalité de synthétiseur. Ok, j'avais même pas fait gaffe à ça. Là, on a tous les crédits du jeu. Oh putain, j'ai... Ordinateur de bureau. Ouah! Le mec, il travaille trop dur, quoi. Et ça, c'est quoi? Installation. Oui, bah, 62%, il en a pour... encore, je pense, beaucoup trop de temps. Là-bas, qu'est-ce qu'il y a là-bas? Qu'est-ce que je fais, moi? Le bureau, encore. Salle de maintenance. Une des premières versions de la salle de maintenance. Ok. Annonce Ultra Deluxe. En décembre 2018, nous avons annoncé la version Ultra Deluxe de The Stanley Parable au Games Award. Voici des captures tirées des vidéos présentées lors de l'annonce du retard du jeu. De l'argent, de la lumière, de quoi boire et du fun. Zone de guerre. Au début du développement, nous avons imaginé une fin où Stanley se retrouverait sur un champ de bataille contre des extraterrestres. Le jeu développerait sa propre intelligence et partirait en guerre contre le narrateur. Nous avons réalisé peu après que c'était pousser la blague trop loin et que c'était peut-être trop plat par rapport au ton du jeu. Certains l'ont aussi vu comme une manière de nous moquer des amateurs de jeux de tir, ce qui n'était pas notre but. D'un côté, ça aurait été stylé, mais de l'autre... c'est bien qu'il n'ait pas gardé, je pense. Il y a des couleurs de partout. Le bureau, classique. La salle de pause. Une des premières versions de la salle de pause. Le monde charge. La deuxième version correspond à celle que nous trouvons dans la version finale du jeu, mais nous voulions lui donner l'apparence d'un endroit où l'on stockerait des marchandises. Comme le marché, le monde charge a toujours eu pour but de vous proposer de rester ou de sauter vers un autre embranchement. Cependant, après cette première version, nous avons décidé d'ajouter l'option où le joueur tombe et meurt. C'est vrai qu'il faudrait que je le teste celui-là. Le minuteur de l'appartement. Dans l'une des premières versions du choix menant à la fin de l'appartement, un minuteur vous laissait 15 secondes pour décrocher le téléphone. Ne pas décrocher le téléphone menait à une autre fin. C'est quelque chose que je n'ai pas encore fait. Tac. Je suis perdu. Ok, on va faire ça. Plan de maintenance. Il était important de placer correctement les couloirs après les deux portes, car les joueurs allaient les emprunter plusieurs fois. Nous avons discuté d'un certain nombre de plans, mais finalement, c'est la version la plus simple qui a fait l'unanimité. Salle de réunion, classique, stylé, tout ça, tout ça. Ici, qu'est-ce qu'on a ici? Putain, il y a tellement de choses. Le menu échappe. Pendant longtemps, nous avions une fin qui ne se finissait vraiment que lorsque le joueur recommençait depuis le menu échappe. Malheureusement, beaucoup de joueurs ont compris que c'est ce qu'ils devaient faire, ce qui s'est révélé frustrant pour tout le monde. Je sais pas. Modèle de fin relaxante. La fin relaxante a connu plusieurs itérations. Cette pièce est la 4e version de la fin et nous pensions l'avoir achevée, mais finalement, nous l'avons abandonnée et modifiée juste avant la sortie. Je l'ai pas faite celle-là du coup. Fin relaxante. Cette capture nous vous montre l'une des premières versions de la fin connue sous le nom de fin relaxante, finalement abandonnée et fusionnée avec une autre partie du jeu. C'est pour ça du coup que je l'ai pas vu. Oh, il y a des leviers. Levier de la fin relaxante. Ces leviers se trouvaient dans la fin relaxante. Le joueur devait actionner un levier et le narrateur décrivait la couleur du levier choisi. Ok. Voir. Ici, voyons voir. C'est infini. Oh. Ok, fin de la liberté. Voici la toute première version de la fin de la liberté pour la fin du jeu. Fin de la liberté. On l'a fait celle-là? Bureau du compte à rebours. L'un des bureaux dans une version antérieure de la fin du compte à rebours. Ça ouais. Fin de la liberté. Voici la fin de la liberté telle qu'elle apparaissait dans la bêta. Fin de la liberté, c'est la fin où je me suis retrouvé dans la boîte avec le bouton passé? Non, non, J'ai pas dû la faire là. Ascenseur de la salle des écrans. Pendant un moment, l'ascenseur de la salle des écrans pouvait monter ou descendre. Vous retrouviez la liberté en haut et le compte à rebours en bas. Nous avons laissé tomber cette idée car les joueurs n'arrivaient pas à se souvenir de ce qu'il y avait en haut et en bas et préféraient regrouper ces deux fins. D'accord, donc la liberté, ça se retrouve dans le truc avec les boutons. Et ben c'est pas quand on désactive pas quand on désactive la machine, c'est ça la fin liberté? Ça doit être ça. Salle du compte à rebours. L'une des premières versions de la salle du compte à rebours. Je n'ai toujours pas compris comment il marchait vraiment. C'est quoi ça?
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free.
Je me perds. Maquette du game design. Voici le niveau que William, le level designer, a envoyé à Davey, le scénariste en tant que proposition. L'efficacité de ce design a permis à William d'être engagé pour concevoir le jeu tout entier. Si l'environnement a beaucoup évolué, l'organisation originale proposée dans cette maquette est toujours dans le jeu. Oh ouais. Je vois. Voyons voir, je suis où là? Ah, j'imagine 3 versions différentes du bureau. Bureau de Stanley. Le bureau à droite. L'évolution de gauche à droite, l'évolution du bureau de Stanley au fil du temps. Le premier date de novembre 2011, le deuxième de mars 2012 et le troisième de février 2013. Ah ouais, le troisième a pris du temps à être fait, mais après, la différence, elle est pas non plus gigantesque, quoi. Et on va descendre. Donc ça... Oh. Email du narrateur. Après la deuxième bande-annonce que nous avons publiée, nous avons demandé aux gens d'envoyer des questions par email au narrateur. Nous comptions nous en servir pour promouvoir encore le jeu, mais nous n'avons jamais trouvé vraiment comment les exploiter. Voici une sélection de ces mails. Quand tu fais un JRPG, comment tu fais le pire jeu ever? Quelle est la différence entre un canard? Than the first one. From a cool man. Es-tu un caillou? D'autotampio. Ok. Du nombre. Du nombre. Alors ça, du coup. La salle de pause, ça on l'a fait. Ça on a fait. Donc tous. Ça, ça c'est ce qu'on vient de faire. Ça c'est ce qu'on vient de faire parce que je me perds. Ok. On va descendre et prendre l'autre chemin déjà. Voir un peu où ça me mène. Ah mais ces crédits qui sont infinis, c'est un bonheur. L'horloge du bureau. Qui fonctionne. Le bureau du chef. Putain. Oh ouais. Capture d'écran du bureau du chef en cours de développement. Stylé, hein. Les patrons, ils ont plus beaucoup d'argent de nos jours. Sous-sol, l'une des premières versions de la partie en sous-sol du jeu. Ouais. La salle de pause. Voyons voir ça.
Now look closely, Stanley. See how it's impossible for the player to do anything in this room. Perfect example of poor level design. Textbook
C'est une
mistake.
copie de narration.
It's the kind of thing
Steven
you pick up
Brightman,
on
en voix du
intuitively
narrateur,
if you had even the
a
most
enregistré les dialogues du jeu
fundamental
entier
understanding of good and
à peu
bad
près 3 fois au
game
cours des
design.
2 années de développement.
Of course, you
Ah
being
ouais.
you,
Voici
you'll
les extraits
probably
des
spend
premières
the
pistes qui
next
ne
hour
figurent
trying
pas
to solve
dans la
it.
version finale du jeu.
Here, I'm just going to make this easy on you.
Mais il a une voix qui est exceptionnelle. Il a une voix qui
When
est
Stanley came to the
exceptionnelle.
lift, he traveled up.
Ok, demi-tour. Ici, nous avons la liberté. Donc, nous sommes revenus ici. Ok. Ok, donc ça, après, plus tard. 2 minutes. Alors, voyons voir. Ça, c'est la version avec les 3 bureaux. Pas de souci. Et là, c'est là où on était redescendu. Donc là, pas besoin de s'en occuper. Ici, est-ce qu'on a manqué des choses? Peut-être là-bas. Je crois pas être allé dans ce couloir. Bingo. Bande-annonce. Nous avons publié 4 bandes-annonces lors du développement du jeu, chacune destinée à dévoiler un peu de l'esprit du jeu. Voici la première, sortie en mai 2012. Elle contient une série de scènes buggées et la voix du narrateur informant le joueur qu'il est en train de préparer une nouvelle version de Stanley Parable. J'ai jamais vu la moindre bande-annonce de jeu. Je suis jamais vraiment intéressé au jeu avant. Ah, ouais. Aussi parce que je me préservais de tout spoil, évidemment. Donc on est bon, on a tout vu. Ok, il nous reste un truc, un seul, qui est l'endroit où la narratrice avait commencé à parler. C'était où? Là. Stanley Parable. Activer, désactiver. Désactivons tout ça.
Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save those two. You can stop the program before they both fail.
Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game.
As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you.
Et là, tu retournes au menu. Tu te laisses pas mourir. Le jeu est absolument exceptionnel. Je pense que j'ai pas fait le 10e. Il doit y avoir des centaines de fins différentes. J'en ai fait une dizaine. Allez, un peu plus peut-être. Franchement, le jeu est trop cool et il est certain que je referai un prochain stream là-dessus. En attendant, portez-vous bien et à la prochaine. Ciao.